So today, because I had that um, earlier video I did about the Legend of Zelda series and the latest game that came out, Tears of the Kingdom, and I was talking about what I thought would be what my speculation was for the next game in the Legend of Zelda series after Tears of the Kingdom. I thought I'd do a similar video on Mario just because it seemed like a good idea. Um, so um, or not Mario in general, but the next big 3D Mario game. So of course the last Mario game to come out wasn't last big 3D Mario game to come out was Super Mario Odyssey all the way back in 2017. We're almost 6 years away from that now. That came out in like October or November of 2017. Did I say 20? No. Anyway, Super Mario Odyssey came out in November or October of 2017. So of course, it's nearly been 6 years. So people are expecting that we're going to get the next big 3D Mario game soon. And I'd agree with that. Um, of course, the next question is that will it be on the Switch or on Nintendo's next console after Switch? Because of course the Switch is 7 years old at this point, and people are expecting at some point, maybe this year or maybe early next year, we're gonna get an announcement of Nintendo's next console, and people um, wonder if the sort of big headlining game for their next console will be the next big 3D Mario game. And I'd say I think that's probably pretty likely, but at the same time, we don't know um, when exactly Nintendo's going to come out with their successor to the Switch. It could be. I know people have been saying that it's probably going to be at some point in 2024 that thing's going to come out, but like I said, we just don't know. And you know, so I don't know. I mean, I guess if I had to really say, I would say the next 3D Mario game probably will come out on the Switch successor, just because, like I said, it's going to be a big headlining game. That'd be a really good big launch title with that system, of course, and that would just be a good thing for them to have as a next big new Mario game as a launch title on their next console. But of course, Super Mario Odyssey was not a launch title for the Switch, so I mean, we could get some sort of situation. Maybe where it comes out for the Switch a little earlier, and then it gets sort of a better version on the next on Nintendo's next console after the Switch. So yeah, like I said before, I personally think that it's probably gonna come out for the Switch's successor as a launch title. I think that's the more likely option of the more likely than the thing I just said about it first coming out on the Switch and then getting another version on the successor console. I think it'll probably be the big big launch title for the next system. And of course, after Super Mario Odyssey and the great success that game was, a lot of people wondered if, sort of like what happened with Super Mario Galaxy, we'd get Super Mario Odyssey 2. We just get a direct sequel at some point in the Switch's lifespan. Um, and it's been nearly 7 years and we haven't seen it, so I feel like at this point, it just couldn't be a sequel. I don't remember how many years there were between Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. I should have looked that up. I think that was 3. Yeah, that was 3. Then I remember, yeah, that was 3. Um, Super Mario Galaxy came out in 2007. Super Mario Galaxy 2 came out in 2010. So that was like 3 years, and obviously it's been much longer than 3 years now since Super Mario Odyssey. So I think the likelihood of the next big 3D game being a direct sequel to that has diminished somewhat. Obviously, of course, um, I do have to, of course, mention that Tears of the Kingdom is a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, the Legend of Zelda games I was talking about before in the other video, and of course, Tears of the Kingdom came out literally, 6 years after the Breath of the Wild, so it's entirely possible we do get Super Mario Odyssey 2, but at the same time, Tears of the Kingdom was initially announced back in 2019, which was only, of course, 2 years after Breath of the Wild launched. So it didn't, that was like almost kind of fairly recently after Breath of the Wild came out. So it wasn't, that, big of a deal that it was a sequel. It wasn't seen as sort of weird that, that came out, that we were getting a direct sequel after that short amount of time. It was like, yeah, I guess to do that. So my point being here is that Tears of the Kingdom was announced relatively shortly, a relatively short time period of only 2 years after Breath of the Wild came out, which wasn't unusual as a direct sequel. It just took another 4 years for it to actually come out after that initial reveal trailer. So that's why that time gap is 6 years. But of course, with Super Mario Odyssey 2 or any sort of 3D Mario game, we haven't heard anything, haven't seen anything, they haven't hinted at it yet. So I just don't think a direct sequel to Super Mario Odyssey is likely at this point, just because we're just, like I said, almost say 7, I meant 6 years. We're almost 6 years after, I think I said 7 like a bunch of times before, but anyway, whatever. We're almost 6 years after Super Mario Odyssey came out, so it just, again, to me, it's like, it just doesn't seem like there's a great chance of that happening. I think they would have moved on to new game concepts and stuff like that. So as for what I actually think the game's gonna be like, I really liked a lot of the mechanics in Super Mario Odyssey. So I was kind of hoping for Super Mario Odyssey 2. So I kind of hope that like the new next big 3D Mario is, sort of just like Mario Odyssey 2, but maybe like bigger, even if it isn't necessarily called Odyssey 2. To me, the thing I think they'll probably do is just have it be one big continuous world. I think that's sort of the direction that's going to go in. Just no sort of separate areas. They're all just going to have it in one space. Stuff like that. So, I don't know exactly what they're going to come up with in terms of what, level system it'll use. If it'll be just like before, where you go to different areas and those areas are self-contained and they go to a different area. But, I just feel like it'll probably just be this huge, big open area with no loading screens or loading or anything like that. It's just going to be one continuous, seamless world that just kind of feels like what they're going for. I don't know what the new mechanic is going to be. In Super Mario Odyssey, it was, of course, turning into other things with your hat and jumping on your hat. And like I said, I don't know, with Mario, it's just kind of, it's just a lot more difficult to predict what they're going to do, because they could do so many things, because Mario kind of just fits into everything. And, they could do something totally, totally nuts with it. Or maybe I feel like it's going to be pretty out there, just in terms of, just in a general feel sort of sense, because I feel like Mario Odyssey sort of felt like sort of a culmination of a lot of the past 3D Mario games. So I feel like with whatever this next game is, it's just going to be something totally and completely different in terms of what they do. So yeah, as for what I'd like them to do, we've had other Mario games with different controllable characters, but there's never really been like a big 3D Mario game with different selectable characters in the style of something like Mario Odyssey. So I feel like that's another thing I would just want, is just different playable characters for the entire thing. Um, that feels like something I would want. I don't know. It's with Mario, it's a lot more difficult to predict what they're gonna do. Just because, like I said, Mario fits into everything, and it's sort of just this thing they can do whatever they want with. They can put him in any situation. So, yeah, I definitely feel like it'll be bigger, obviously, and just a lot more open, and just maybe sort of, just not with sort of those self-contained areas, just a big open world sort of Mario game. So yeah, that's what I think.